That's your farm system update. All right, let's bring in Tim Kawakami. Joining us on the River Islands guest line. All guests on 95.7 The Game appear on the River Islands guest line. Isn't it time for you to discover the islands, River Islands, and Lathrop? Now, sometimes I'm a little jealous of TK.
Huh.
Because, I mean, he's getting all these great guests on his podcast.
Great guests, getting everyone.
It's getting everybody. Then when I see him at the arena, he just commands. He has a presence. Tim Kawakami has a presence, man. I don't know why. Hey, TK, what's up, man? What's going on this morning?
Yeah, don't sell yourself short. You got me on as a guest. That's pretty good.
Which is hard. Takes us every 6 months to get you on this show, man. All right, there's a lot going on in the Bay. I'm sure you're going down to hear Shanahan talk today later on in practice. We'll see if Brandon Aiyuk is still on the team. But let's start with Lauri Markkanen. We got the breaking news that the Jazz and Lauri Markkanen is going to sign an extension either tomorrow or in the future, which makes him ineligible to be traded this season. Now, apparently the Warriors' final offer was Moses Moody, multiple first-round picks, pick swaps, a second-round pick. They did not want to include Brandon Podziemski. However, TK, I don't even know if that would have got it done. Just Pods and Moses Moody and all these picks. Felt like they would have wanted Moody, Pods, and either or Wiggins or Jonathan Kuminga. What'd you make of this Lauri Markkanen situation?
Yeah, I think there was a way they could have done it by putting Podziemski in. There wasn't just about Podziemski, but I think they could have. I think they did not go all in on this. I'm a little surprised. As we wrote about it, earlier this week, I thought maybe when it really came down to it, I just don't know that there's another, top line player who they can get. They always think they're involved, and you never know. Somebody could come available in February because it is going to move to February now, but it won't be Lauri Markkanen now. We know he'll be ineligible to be traded. I thought they'd push harder, but I could also say they thought their slam dunk was Markkanen plus Kuminga plus Podziemski going into the future, and they did not want to jeopardize that and give their picks by putting in a prize player like Podziemski. And let's just be honest, like maybe they could put Podziemski into another trade. Again, I just don't see that player. They're usually pretty good about having a player out there. Like this is a guy we're chasing, obviously Kevin Durant, and there's been all these other names. Some they've gotten, some they haven't. Markkanen, you look at the free agent list for next year, you've been Markkanen off it. It's not very good.
Yeah.
So, I thought they might push it all in. For some reason, whatever. Maybe they figure, listen, if we have to pay Lauri Markkanen $48 million a year, which is what it would take if the assignment extension, it just isn't worth all this. Again, I don't know the exact reasoning there. I don't think it was impossible. I'll put it that way. I don't think it was impossible for them to make. Listen, Utah engaged them, right? There were conversations. These are things that happen. All understood. Like these are value judgments you have to make. I just don't know that there's going to be a better fit. I don't know. I think Markkanen was a better fit than Paul George, and we know that they came really close to Paul George. Not a better player, but he's 7 years younger. He plays that stretch five. I think Paul George is a tremendous player, but what's he going to be worth in 3 years, guys?
Yeah,
and you're paying him $55 million.
I agree with that. I was never high on the Paul George situation. I'm glad I didn't go that route. Go ahead, Shasta.
No, I think most Warrior fans have this setting, Tim. It's like whatever Steph wants, right? Like that's what most Warrior fans feel. So I guess the question is like they were down for Paul George because it felt like Steph and Dre wanted that. How do you think this lands on Steph's doorstep, hearing that they weren't kind of all in on getting Markkanen?
I think he can be, look at it pretty rationally and say, maybe you shouldn't give up the whole thing. Like that's the part that I think the overreaction is, oh my God, Steph's going to be pissed. Oh my, like he understands it if you explain it to him. And this is not an unaggressive front office, right? I mean, he said it, like he knows they're looking at stuff. They looked at LeBron James last February. Now, that only works so far, right? If you're not a good team, he's not going to like it, and he said so. We know this. They are under some amount of urgency to make sure they're pretty good, to be in with a shot at being very good. Again, I don't know who that other, we imagine they need one more player here. I don't know who that player is and what might be available in February. Or are they going to just say, you know what, let's be okay this year and let's go attack it again in July? Guess what? Lauri Markkanen can be traded in July. I don't know. I'm just saying they're pretty aggressive. I just would hesitate from saying, oh, my God, this is the thing that's going to drive Steph crazy. How crazy if they're not. Let's see where they are. January, February, they're probably going to be okay. Not great, okay. And I avoid this. This is the thing that drives them crazy. This is the thing that's no. It's going to be the accumulation of things, plus and minus, and he understands that if you explain it to him, this is what we're trying to do, and maybe we shouldn't have traded everything for Lauri Markkanen. He might disagree, but he's not going to say, okay, that's it, I'm gone, get Charlotte on the phone. He's not doing that. He is pretty well committed to the Warriors, at least for another year or so. And he's not James Harden. He's not that guy. He's not like, I'm going to, do this passive-aggressive stuff on you or even aggressive-aggressive. He's like, okay, bring me into the conversation. What are our options? Where are we? Let's go hard for the best players. And he doesn't think they're going to go 100% on that. They better have a track on somebody. I'm not saying they shouldn't. I just don't know who that is. And then we shall see. Jared Allen just signed a new extension with Cleveland that allows him to be traded, at the trade deadline. Again, I don't know. I've heard that name with them in the past. I don't know if that's for sure somebody they would want now. But you got to start thinking about that. And then, how hard can they push? What have they got? They kept Kuminga. They kept Pajemski. They had their picks. We'll hear about them again in February. I guarantee you. I just don't know the names.
Tim Kawakami here on the Morning Roast on 95.7 Game, courtesy of the River Islands guest line. So before we pivot to the 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk, real quickly, TK, how good is this team as is on paper, the Golden State Warriors, going into the next season? This is a playoff team? Is it a play-in team? Is it not a play-in team? Is this a team that's going to finish in 11th or lower? Well, how do you see this team right now on paper?
Yeah, I don't think they're 11th or lower. I mean, they won 48 last year. Well, I'm sorry, 46, whatever it was. In a really crappy year. And we know the West was powerful. That's what, got them to play in. Normally that gets you in. I think they're slightly better, maybe not a lot better. If Draymond doesn't get suspended for, 16 games, they probably win a couple more. Does that mean they're winning 48? I think they're 6-7, and that's not great, right? And then you're one step, knee tweak away from being 11, no question. And he was mostly healthy last year. So you always have to factor in those things. I think they're better than they're more versatile than they were last year, less explosive without Clay in there. But I'm a big D'Anthony Melton guy.
Same here.
Yep. I think he's a big ad. We'll see about the others. But I think they're slightly better. Again, it's all relative to the West, I know. And you got Houston coming up. You've got Memphis coming back. You got San Antonio coming up.
Let's get this.
Teams are in trouble. But I think they're okay. I think they're like the 7th seed.
49ers. I know you're going down there to hear from Shanahan and whatnot. What to make of this IU situation? How did we get to this point, TK?
Yeah. I think and listen, Ayuk's number could be crazy. More to the point, I think it's probably shifting. Like, they're like, wait a minute, it was 28, now it's 30, or whatever. But that's negotiation. I think the 49ers have misplayed this. There is a 49er need, and we're seeing it every year to try to win every negotiation. This is what they do. And I think it's helped them try to keep some of this salary cap under control. We know how many big contracts they have, but it's under control. I think it's building up some kind of amount of unhappiness with their star players. We've heard about it kind of under the radar. I think it's just playing out with Aiyuk. They're trying to beat Aiyuk in this. I think that Bosa negotiation last year might be affecting this. They got beat by Bosa. The 49ers do not, Parag Marathe and Jay York do not normally get beat like they got beat by Nick Bosa. And Aiyuk is not Nick Bosa. I understand that, but I think that there's just some recriminations from that, and they want to beat Brandon Aiyuk, and they're determined not to get this to September, like they let the Bosa thing go, and they're trying to push the issue, and they might win. Hey, there's a possibility that they win this. They get Aiyuk to come in at their number or relative to their number, or they make a successful trade. I think any trade they make now, if they make it for Aiyuk, will be an unsuccessful trade. I think it's a give-up trade. You don't see good teams doing this. Like, what good teams trade a good player in August? That doesn't happen. You trade them at the draft. So you get the pick, you draft the player, you have the player. If they make a trade, Kendrick Bourne, I like him on all, but please,
I know.
And a second round pick, like, that's how you're going to go to the Super Bowl. They've got the money. They do have the money. Now, I understand, they got the Purdy money coming down the back end, but it's not salary cap money. That's just guaranteed money. This is guaranteed money that Jed York probably does not want to pay. You know what? Okay, that's his decision. I get it. But then you're judged by the roster you end up with. If they end up without Brandon Aiyuk, it's been a miscalculation. They've just miscalculated and misplayed this to get it in this position. This is not what good teams do. Look at the Detroit Lions. They've re-signed everybody.
Yep.
They've figured out a way. That's a team that the 49ers are likely going to run into in the NFC Championship game or whatever round.
Can I stop you there? Can I stop
Sure.
you there? I agree with a lot of what you're saying. The difference between Detroit and the Niners have been good for like 6 straight years, and they have a very expensive top-loaded roster, whereas Detroit, this is their first cycle of paying a lot of these guys. You know what I'm saying? So I just think they're at a different life cycle than where the Niners are. Now, you said maybe Jed doesn't want to pay the money. They have paid, and I'll give them credit to this, pretty much every single guy, top of the market money, every single turn. But why the hard stance on Aiyuk then? Like, I know they think he's really good. Is it like a number thing? Was it the way he's gone about the business? Is it because of the residual of what happened with Bosa last year? Is it all of these things? Because, like, that's a fascinating aspect I hadn't considered.
Yeah, I think it's the totality of the guaranteed money that Jed York is looking at with the Purdy deal coming. And I'll argue with you on the Lions. They got a quarterback they're paying a lot of money to. The 49ers are not paying Brock Purdy. And let's just say this, when they pay him next year, that will not really accelerate on the cap for 2 or 3 years. You look at these quarterback contracts, they don't hit the cap hard until year 3, year 4. So if I get it, there's X amount of guaranteed dollars that Jed York's going to want to commit. I'm not going to reach into his pocket and say, you got to do it. But when you don't do it and you do have cap space, they've got $34 million in cap space, guys, right now. This incredibly expensive roster. It's to the credit of the negotiations that they've kept these dollars as low as possible. They're very good at it. But there is a breaking point when you try to pull this on every single player, and then Nick Bosa beat you. And then the next player says, well, why can't I beat you? Why can't I take this in September and beat you? So it's just like they've got a way they do it. Agents hate it, guys. Agents, they hated it 4 years ago. Now you do it, you negotiate it. 49ers have paid the money. They're at the top of the market, all these guys. But you asked George Kittle and Fred Warner how fun that negotiation was. Trent Williams is going through it right now. It's not easy to negotiate with the 49ers. It just isn't. Again, I don't criticize them for it, except if it leads to a problem with a receiver. And maybe Brandon Aiyuk is asking for money that is just not feasible to pay him, but other teams probably are willing to pay it. And at some point, it costs money to try to win a Super Bowl. And if they don't have them, are they really trying to win a Super Bowl this year? Is that everything is all in?
Yeah, I think it's bad business.
We all agree on that. But I would also, if I'm the owner, I'm like, hey, I've given you $477 million in the last 4 years in guaranteed money across all these guys in escrow accounts, and you guys haven't cashed in the Super Bowl. So I get both sides of it.
Man.
The other part of this is
Jed York co-hosting the show here?
Yeah, I'm not. Listen.
No, but look around the league. Look around the league. There are a lot of teams that shed salaries year after year after year. They just gave $120 million to Bosa. And, like, I'm with you. The Bosa thing, I think, is resonating in this deal. But here's the thing, Tim. He's not the only guy with his hand out. They still got to pay Trent. Diomino Lenoir's down the pipeline. Charvarius wants more money. What are you going to do with Greenlaw? Hufanga? Like, they've got Aaron Banks. There are a lot of guys outside of Brandon Aiyuk. So is it good as a team-building strategy to invest in 2 wide receivers making $60 million for this particular season when you do have other needs on this roster down the line?
They won't be investing in 2 receivers $60 million because Ayuk's number will not be that high when Debo's number is on it, and they will probably not have Debo Samuel next year. You just got to understand this money doesn't all stay on the cap. It's moved around. So I agree with you. Like, if Debo was at 26, 27, 28, and you are into him, then it's going to be really hard. But guess what? They held the line on Debo Samuel. You know why? Because they're tough negotiators. I credit them for this. There is room to do this. There is absolutely room to do this. They've already cut Eric Armstead. This is all part of what they're doing. And if they give Aiyuk a ton of money, maybe it costs them George Kittle in a year. But again, this money does not hit immediately. It does not. Unless you forcibly do it, which they actually could because they got so much room right now. But usually the signing bonus is what you're paying the guy in the first 2 years, and the cap number is low. So, again, it's their style. I get it. But I'll just put it this. Around the NFL, it's not, oh, gee, that mean Brandon Aiyuk. It is not. It is the 49ers are trying to win a negotiation again. Yeah. And full credit to them if they do win it. But if they don't win it and it's blows up in their face, they're not all in for the Super Bowl. They cannot say that they're all in. They are not all in.
That's bad business. I'm with you here in this sense, TK. Look, the cap, and Shazka and I have talked about this for over a year now. Always believe, well, maybe you could stagger some money here, and a lot of guys will not be on the books once IU gets his money. So I'm glad you clarified that with everything happening here. It's funny to me, and maybe fans do this, and I get into it with fans all the time, that all of a sudden they're telling people to, IU, hey, kick rocks here. You're replaceable. You're this, you're that. In your opinion, how good is Brandon Aiyuk? Because I feel like in this market, he's been underrated. When you think about the opportunities he had to catch a football last year on this team, that's a run-first team that loves to get the 30 carries, to have the production he had with that limited amount of opportunities, wow, second team all-pro Brandon Aiyuk, and what he does in the run game, and some people say, well, we don't pay you to run block. Well, hell, they pay George Kittle pass block on third downs. That's a part of the equation, playing for Kyle Shanahan. When you talk to fans and you hear things around the league and other reporters, how valuable is Aiyuk? How do people view Aiyuk in this offense? Is he a top 10 receiver, top 5? How do you view him?
I look at him as a top 5 or 6, but that's also because he fits the system so well. So you can say, okay, on the open market, not every team plays the system. You're not a top 5 or 6. It's a negotiation. It's a debate. He's hitting the market now. If you hit the market now, you're going to get a lot of money, and the guys who are not hitting the market get it next time. I think he's top 5 or 6. I think the things that he does are going to be almost impossible for them to replace. Just look at it that way. If they don't have Brandon Aiyuk, guess what? They got to go find a Brandon Aiyuk, and that's hard. And it's not Ricky Pearsall. It isn't this year. What would they pay to get a Brandon Aiyuk on their roster? They'd give up a first, maybe a first and a second, right? If they had another Brandon Aiyuk out there, that's what they would pay. That makes him very valuable. Is he a pound for pound a better player than A.J. Brown or Justin Jefferson or whoever? That's debatable. Probably not. But in this system where you got to block to earn your routes, you got to run the decoy routes as hard as you run the routes where you know you're getting the ball. I don't know exactly who's going to fit better than Brandon Aiyuk. And that's how you have the real world, you have to value it. I do believe the 49ers are negotiating, saying, stat-wise, if you just raw numbers, you're not there. I get it. If you win it that way, you win the negotiation. But Brandon Aiyuk and, yards per reception, yards per route, all these things, you do that kind, the rate numbers, not the cumulative numbers, he's way up there. I don't think he's as good as Justin Jefferson. I get that he would make less than him. There are 3 or 4 others for sure. They're not all on the market right now. He is. Right. And the ones who are on the market, I think he's just as good as Amon-Ra St. Brown. He might be better. I think he's just as good as a lot of these other guys. So it's a negotiation. He's the one who's up now. He's the one. Well, he's got the 5th-year option, but I still think he's going to play for that.
No doubt.
I think he's worth it. I think he's worth close to 30.
I'm kind of with you there, TK. So how does this end? When you go down to Santa Clara today, Shanahan speaks at the podium. Is he playing for the 49ers in 2024?
I don't know. I don't. That one is totally up. You start letting other teams talk to your player, which Mayoko's reported, and I'm sure is true. It could be a big feint. It could be a bluff, right? You go ahead and find out, and then we'll come back, and you'll like it here. Like, once you let that happen, it's very likely that he's going to like what he hears. And so it's 50-50 at best.
Tim, where's John Lynch in all this? Like, you always hear about him being kind of like the calming presence. He seems to be very reasonable to me. Like, he's a guy that I think sees both sides, the player's point of view, understands the front offices. He's not going to get in the weeds on the contract and all that stuff. Is there any way they can put the genie back in the bottle with him somehow in the room? I'm just asking out loud because he seems to be a guy that kind of gets the big picture.
Yeah, I think theoretically, they might have some complication because he's really good friends, or was really good friends with Aiyuk's agent, right, Ryan Williams. So I'm not sure how deeply involved Lynch could have been on this. Maybe he was, maybe he is. I don't know. He'd have to have some part of this. Everything I hear from NFL people is the guy who negotiates these deals is Parag Marathe. That's the guy. And Jed York is on top of that. And John comes in and does some other things. I think he was heavily involved with Bosa. But guess what? Bosa won that deal. Parag Marathe might not have loved that too much. Again, that's my speculation. But, I think John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan make their views known. They are the number one people in football operations, but they don't control the purse strings. And I think it's Parag Marathe doing this negotiation. Again, do you talk to any agent who deals with the 49ers? They talk about general conversations with John Lynch, and they talk to the negotiations with Parag Marathe. So not trying to underline anybody's fault here, but every agent I've talked to said the person that I'm negotiating with and who is a pain in the ass, but you respected, but he is a pain in the ass, is Parag Barate.
Wow.
Whether John and Kyle, at the end can come in, I don't know. I think they certainly did that with Bosa. But again, I don't think 49ers like that Bosa deal. I think they hate that Bosa deal. They realized they had to do it, but Bosa beat them, period. They just haven't had one like that where they've been beaten by somebody like they were beaten by Bosa. I don't think they want that to happen with Aiyuk.
And Bosa did not have the year that we're accustomed to Bosa having last season, of course. He even said it was a down year here. So is Parag Barate or Jet York your next guest on the TK podcast?
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. Listen to the show, they probably won't. But,
I don't think they listen to us, TK. I don't think they listen to us. They don't want to hear us loudmouths.
They're a little busy right now, though. So they're a little bit busy. That's all good. We'll see how today goes. Yesterday was very interesting, and I'm just very curious. Kyle Shanahan can't. He's speaking for the team, so he can only say so much. But I'd be interested to hear the shadings. The between the lines. I don't know. This is a spot I did not think they would be in August, in early August, but it's hurrying up. Things are speeding up, and I'm going to be very interested in the tone that he takes in just a little bit.
All right, TK. Good stuff, man. Have fun down there in Santa Clara. Exciting times in the Bay Area. A lot of drama out here. Check out the TK podcast as well. Tim Kawakami here on the River Islands Guest Line. Thanks for the time today, TK.
You got it, guys.
All right, Tim Kawakami. Sent a lot there. It's 9:41. About 10 minutes left. Get your calls in. Stein Eagle is going to take a lot of calls. Willard Dibb's going to take a lot of calls. A lot of clarity there about the cap, how he said that Brock Purdy's money, he's going to get the guarantees, but that base salary may not hit until 25, 26. So,
yes, but you also, okay.